Have you ever gone to the vet and was told that you're harming your pet by feeding them raw food? This is a lot more common than you might think. I often hear stories just like this. The owner brings their pet in for a checkup, excited to show off their healthy skin, coat, and teeth since switching to a raw diet. Their vet compliments their pet's healthy appearance, but once the owner mentions that they're feeding raw food, the energy in the room shifts. The vet's smile fades, and they begin to express how dangerous feeding raw food is. The owner then leaves, feeling guilty and second-guessing their choice. One raw feeder even told me that their vet threatened to call animal control if they continued to feed raw. This is so unfortunate because raw diets are what dogs and cats were designed to eat. The only problem is, vets don't agree. In veterinary school, many are taught that raw diets are dangerous and that the safest choices for pets are dry and canned foods. Now, don't get me wrong, veterinarians mean well. They're just trying to do what they believe is best for your pet. They just don't trust raw diets. So, what do you do in a situation like this? Many veterinarians raise these same concerns about raw diets. I'm going to guide you on how to answer all of them so you don't get caught off guard and do it in a way where you also gain your veterinarian's trust. One of the most common concerns that your vet will bring up in the exam room is that bacteria in raw diets can make you and your pet sick. This was one of the first things that I heard as well. I was working at a veterinary hospital at the time, and one of the vets started warning me about bacteria once I told them that I was feeding my pets a raw diet. I was very timid and I didn't want to sound like I knew more than my vet, so what I did was agree with her. I told her that I understood that raw diets do have the potential to harbor bacteria, and at this point, she seemed more open to listening. I then explained the safety steps and precautions that I take when preparing and handling raw food. And this helped her feel much more comfortable. So once you've shown your vet that you understand their concerns, you should then go into the safety steps you take when preparing and feeding raw meat, like prepping in a space away from where you prepare your own food, using dedicated knives and cutting boards, and keeping meat frozen until feeding to prevent bacteria growth. But what if your vet's still not convinced? At this point, they may only be convinced by facts. So what can you show to prove that dogs and cats can handle the natural bacteria in raw meat? Well, canines and felines have short digestive tracts that are designed to quickly pass food through, which prevents bacteria growth. This is a good visual comparison between your pet's digestive system, their wild ancestors, and a human. Canine and feline saliva also contains an enzyme called lysozyme, which is useful in destroying bad bacteria. You can show them the proof of that here. And it's not just raw food that can harbor bacteria. Many dry and canned foods have also been recalled in the past due to salmonella and E. coli contamination. This is a good reminder that all foods can bear the risk of bacteria. But what if it's not just bacteria that's worrying your vet? There's another very common criticism that veterinarians have against raw diets, and depending on their reason behind it, they may be right. Raw diets lack essential nutrients. Some vets argue that homemade diets can't provide all the necessary nutrients, and pets are better off eating commercial dry or canned food because it's fortified with the nutrients that pets need. Is this true? Well, commercial pet foods are pre-formulated so owners don't have to do any guesswork. But this doesn't mean that a homemade diet with fresh whole foods can't provide these nutrients as well. I mean, dogs and cats survived just fine before commercial pet food was invented. A subscriber recently shared that their vet told them that raw diets lack essential nutrients. The owner had the urge to disagree, but instead, she chose to take some time to listen to why her vet was saying this. She learned that her vet's concern came from seeing pet owners feed diets of just ground meat, broccoli, and eggs. And after a while, those pets became ill due to nutrient deficiencies. After hearing this, she knew how to gain her vet's trust. She explained the extensive research she had been doing regarding her dog's nutrient needs, how she formulated meals, and the variety of foods that she fed to ensure the diet provided all the right nutrients. And this not only reassured her vet, but encouraged her vet to even contribute ideas to her homemade raw recipes. So show your vet that you're making a conscious effort to ensure their diet is nutritionally complete. This can be through following the same nutrient guidelines that pet foods follow, like NRC, AAFCO, and FeedIfe, referencing food data websites, or getting your recipes formulated by a nutritionist. If you're not sure if your pet's meals are nutritionally complete, you can always check out some of my videos on how to create nutritious raw meals. Now, even if your vet believes that you have a handle on nutrients and bacteria in the meal, there is one ingredient that they still might not believe is safe to feed: bones. Veterinarians warn owners not to feed bones because they frequently mention horror stories about surgeries where they removed bone shards from a pet's digestive tract. I've seen this myself when working at a veterinary hospital. However, this was often due to pets finding leftover bone scraps in the garbage, like fried chicken wing bones. And there's a big difference between bone scraps and the bones that we feed in raw diets. The bones that make pets sick are cooked. Cooked bones become brittle and splinter into sharp shards. They're also much harder to digest after being cooked due to collagen being broken down. This is what makes cooked bones so dangerous. However, in its natural, raw state, bones are much softer, easier to chew, and digestible. So if your healthy pet who eats raw meaty bones isn't proof enough that raw bones aren't harmful, you could also point out that wild canines and felines regularly consume raw bone in their natural diet. Even domesticated cats will hunt and consume entire prey animals if they have access to the outdoors. A dog and cat also have a very acidic digestive system, with a pH ranging from 1 to 2. This level of acidity can easily dissolve bone. Most of the advice given so far might put your vet's mind at ease if your pet is healthy. But what if you're bringing them to the vet because they're sick? Some raw feeders have shared that their vet blamed their pet's illness on raw food without considering other possible causes. So how do you know if your vet's right or if they're just blaming it on raw food? My mom once took her raw-fed cat Salem to the vet because he was showing signs of a urinary tract infection. She explained his symptoms, when it started, and reluctantly also told the vet that he ate a raw diet. Once the vet learned Salem was fed raw, they quickly concluded he had an infection due to the bacteria in his raw diet. My mom wasn't convinced and urged them to test his urine anyway before putting him on antibiotics and a prescription dry food. The normal veterinary protocol is to get a urine sample to see if there's any bacteria or crystals. So this is something her veterinarian should have done, regardless of Salem's diet. They did what she asked and tested the urine sample. And guess what? Salem didn't have any harmful bacteria or crystals in his urine. It turns out, his symptoms were actually due to stress cystitis, which is inflammation in the bladder due to stress. These symptoms weren't caused by raw food. They were triggered from construction going on next door. Another common situation to look out for is if your puppy or kitten has worms in their stool. Even your veterinarian should know that raw food is not the main cause for parasites in young pets. In school, they're taught that puppies and kittens can often be born with parasites, which are passed from their mother through the placenta, and they can also get them through nursing. When I worked at a veterinary hospital, it was incredibly common for puppies and kittens, regardless of their diet, to have worms during their initial checkup. So it's unfair to only blame the raw diet in an instant like this. No matter what your pet's symptoms are, it's always best to encourage your vet to treat them like any other pet and to look into all possible causes of their symptoms. A good way to show your vet that the meats that you're feeding aren't full of bacteria and parasites is to bring a list of the places that you source from. Most raw feeders source from grocery stores, butcher shops, and farmers that sell human-grade meat. And human-grade meat is handled with a high level of care. Most of these meats have also been pre-frozen, which kills off any parasites if there are any. Speaking of getting a list of places that you source from, let's quickly talk about what to bring to your vet visit. First, you should bring a typed or written recipe that you've created to show your vet exactly what you're feeding. This will give them a better visual so they don't just assume that you're tossing ground beef into a bowl. If you're able to show more information, like what nutrients each food item provides and how many calories are in the meal, that will really help show that you're also doing your research. Finally, your pet's healthy coat, stable weight, and shiny teeth will also be a great testimony. You can't deny what's right in front of you. Now that you've learned what challenges raw feeders might face when talking to their vet, I want to hear your stories. Is your vet skeptical of raw food, or have you been able to earn their trust? Let me know in the comments.